person makes it very difficult to do business in Africa. So there's been, on sort of the silver lining side of this thing, there's been some movement in the direction of trying to come up with a solution in Africa. There's this African Continental Free Trade Area initiative, and basically there's an attempt to address some of this in the sense that this new free trade area, it's now the largest in terms of the number of countries involved. So we've got all of Africa, as far as I understand, that's somewhat signed up with this. And the goal is to eliminate tariffs and unify logistics, open borders, and so on. But I think without a unified currency layer, this dream is probably not going to be a success. It's probably impossible, but for Bitcoin. And so I think Bitcoin fits really well for Africa. You guys know a lot of this, so I'll try to move quickly. But right, so Bitcoin is borderless, it's instant, it's neutral, it's low fees, it's open to anyone to participate, to build, to innovate. And when you compare that to the legacy system, I mean, it just wins hands down. So that's really exciting when you just look at the feature set. So hopefully we can get there. And currently, the best effort by Africa to date to try to address this is this Pan-African payment settlement system. And this is sort of what the flows look like. Maybe they're trying to do something that would be approximate to like the SWIFT system, let's say, but for Africa. But the reality is it's still very slow in terms of actually settling the money. Like they can make the settlement show up in the bank account, but if they want to claw that back, if the Pan-African payment settlement system decides that they don't want the payment to go through, it's centralized, it's permissioned, it's basically just reinventing a lot of the broken system that we have today. So that's what's happening today. And then you compare that with using Bitcoin, and it's really quite amazing. You just have a buyer in the Bitcoin network and the seller. Now, obviously, if you're using Lightning, you may have some other infrastructure providers and so on and so forth. But for large settlement, on-chain works just fine. And so that's something to keep in mind. There's some discussion about, a lady was talking about, moving tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars, to South Africa to purchase property. Sure, you could potentially use Lightning, but you could also use on-chain for that. And, just a nice little real world scenario of what the friction looks like today. Let's say there's a, Kenyan agri-tech that's selling 20,000 of equipment to a Zambian co-op farm. Traditional FX is going to take a couple days. Several banks are going to be involved. And the fees are going to be, $400 to $1,000 or maybe more on a trade or on a movement of funds of that size. And using Bitcoin with Lightning, it's, seconds and, a couple dollars, worst case scenario. Oh. So I think Africa is really a prime candidate for Bitcoin because you do have large amount of mobile adoption. You have, millions already using mobile phones, right? So high inflation, sadly, but that's a very real reality in most countries in Africa. Let's say probably all of them. And you have a lot of young people. I don't know if you were here for the talk about where she had the pyramid, but the demographics in Africa are very, very young. And that's encouraging because, as you get older, it's harder to learn new things. So we got a lot of young people who can hopefully quickly learn and adopt these new technologies that we're discussing. And some challenges to consider, of course, what can slow us down? Government intervention and so for example, I'm currently in Nigeria where I live with my wife, and the government there decided to Well, initially they tried to ban Bitcoin, which didn't work, and so then they had to kind of like roll that back because they had egg on their face because they looked silly. So, so then they recently have designated Bitcoin as a security, which is a terrible, completely nonsensical decision, but that's how they've designated it, and so they're trying to regulate it in a fairly heavy-handed way. They're trying to be like the New York of Africa. Very bad idea. New York lost a lot of Bitcoiners. I was in New York actually when what do they call it, the bit law or whatever, um, was passed or was brought in, and I left shortly after that happened. So anyway, so Nigeria is kind of shooting itself in the foot. But generally speaking, if governments can stay out of the way, that would be a benefit to all of Africa and Bitcoin, and they could definitely throw a wrench in things. Obviously, the volatility is a big one. Especially if you don't have a lot of savings, you can't deal with that volatility very easily. It's much more hard to get people to stomach that. Now, I do think Bitcoin is, of course, decreasing in volatility as the market grows. And so this is going to be less and less of an issue, but it still is an issue today. Um, and then education and onboarding. Well, it's amazing to see all the different circular economies that are popping up. Hope you guys got to see that talk today, this morning. Very, very encouraging. And so I think that's something that like all of us can be engaged with and involved with, regardless of whether you're a developer or not. Everyone can be a part of that. And then stable coins are distracting to some degree, but as kind of connected to the volatility issue before, people use stable coins because they can't afford to lose 20% of whatever perhaps their small savings is. And so for now, I think that's something we're gonna see probably more use in the next few years. And I think as Bitcoiners, we need to be thinking about how we can compete with those technologies. So I think there's like two ways, imagining this future where Bitcoin is the connective, the connective tissue in terms of trade and money in Africa. There's two ways to look at this. So there's the top-down approach where we, try to go and get governments to give us their blessing, and I'm all for. If anyone in this room, probably don't have anyone here with connections, but if anyone knows anyone in the governments, I think it's worth knocking on doors and seeing what can be done. Launching trade corridors, pilot programs, um, engage with the AFCFTA if anyone can get in touch with those folks. And obviously, the biggest thing here would be just where and when we can to lobby and encourage our governments to uh, basically allow Bitcoin to compete as money. And they've done this in El Salvador. It is, I don't know if it's technically still considered legal tender there, but at a minimum, they're not taxing it, and you can use it freely. And so, that's really the ideal, and in many ways, the requirement. If this is going to happen in Africa, Bitcoin needs to be able to compete on equal footing. And then the bottom-up approach, I think, of course, is more what we can all be active with. There's still huge opportunity to create infrastructure in Africa, brokerages, Lightning, service providers, Bitcoin mining, huge opportunities. Um, yeah, obviously educating exporters, importers, and so on and so forth, and just explaining to people that they can save money. This is where MavaPay, for example, as I understand, they're going and knocking on the doors of some of these folks and showing them that, hey, we can save you money. And so thankfully we have a better product, and that really does help us and should help us to win in the end. And then, demanding that people accept Bitcoin, or requesting, I should say. And then obviously offering our own goods and services for Bitcoin is another big thing that we all can do. Um, so, if Africa traded without borders or barriers, what kind of, you know, what kind of future would that look like? And how much wealth could be unlocked? I think it's tremendous. This is an amazing continent. I've been here now just for a few years, but it's been a pleasure to meet so many wonderful people. And the world's youngest continent would finally get money that is for everybody and benefits everyone except instead of just, the political class that currently benefits from the fiat system. So yeah, Bitcoin is not just digital gold, right? It's hopefully the bloodstream for the economy of Africa in the next few decades, and it's the clear winner when you just look at what it offers. Right, it removes barriers, it connects and empowers people, it unleashes creation and creativity in Africa, um, and so I'm just encouraged that you guys are carrying this torch and you're doing the work. And I'm very honored to be here and to be up on the stage. And I guess I'll end with just yeah. So thank you. I will mention a few things about what I do. I have just launched a Bitcoin wallet with my company called CoinCube. Got an amazing group of developers here in Nigeria and Kenya. So my team is mostly African based. I've got a few devs in India, but we've got an amazing group of people working on this. We have basically forked a project, another wallet that I had been using and enjoying, but I wanted to maybe I guess make it better, make it more like what I wanted to have. And so I'm kind of scratching my own itch. But yeah, shout out to the Liana developers. We forked their project. Yeah, it's a great wallet. And so, but yeah, we basically, my vision is I want to be able to bank on Bitcoin, and I want my life, financial situation to be able to be completely integrated. And so, kind of building it for myself in a lot of ways, but I'm hopeful that it could be useful. For the product, I'd say the coolest thing about it is it's got a multi-sig vault, is what we call that, which is the Liana product. Um, but it allows you to have inheritance built into the wallet, so you can basically do as time-locked spend paths. So you can have your regular keys for your regular use of the wallet, but if you keel over, you can have other keys that come online after a certain amount of time, and which is really great because now as a husband and father, I want to be able to give that money to my family in the future if and when I pass on. At some point, we all will die, right? So um, so that's what I've been building. Love for you guys to take a look at it. It's free and open source. We are adding some additional features and things that will come in the future. But there's I guess the final advertisement on it. There's a liquid wallet that we built into that using the Breeze SDK. So that's basically like your checking account. There's the Vault product, which is like your savings account. And then we've got buy sell built in using a Meld, which is a on ramp, off ramp aggregator. So you should be able to buy Bitcoin and sell Bitcoin from the desktop app. Um, yeah. So anyway, I'd love for people to take a look and give me some feedback. But we're going to keep building that out. I got a lot of ideas to improve it, and Bitcoin UX has to get a lot better. That's I think maybe the final point I'll make here is it's good that we're educating people, but if we have to get everyone to become like a hardcore Bitcoiner for this thing to work, I don't think we're going to make it. So I think the better solution is, similar to a cell phone, right? Like, or using the internet. Most people don't really understand all the technical complexities, but they just use these tools because they work. And so we've got to be thinking more and more like that as Bitcoiners. We've got to make these tools just so intuitive and so easy that all of these worries and complexities and barriers that they just are removed. And so anyway, that's my goal with what I'm building. And yeah, I'd love for you to look at it. So thanks, guys. Appreciate your time.
What a great talk. And I'm so happy, Robert, that you mentioned Liana wallet. I love that wallet. It's an amazing tool. I think more people need to do exactly what you're doing. Find out something that you like. If you want to make it better, fork it and just make it better. So yeah, great job, and thank you very much. One more round of applause, please, for Robert. That was awesome. That was awesome. Oh, Vanya, this is yours. Pleasure. Okay, we're almost, not totally. We still got something for you guys, right? But we're almost done with the day. We're just going to wait. So we've got a 5-minute break until the next speaker, as we're going to start getting everybody to come in as the other stages are finishing off. So in another 5 minutes, just if you want to grab a water, please don't leave. Like, come back. because there's also a picture, there's a giveaway, there's things for you guys. So don't say I didn't warn you. Awesome. See you just now. Oh, but Nathaniel, the internet's back. Where do I put it?
Yeah.
Good afternoon, Cape Town. I see all of you have started making your way in. We're about to have the last talk for the day. And after that, we will be moving into closing remarks, pictures, giveaways. So there's still some fun things to happen, which do not involve you having to jump around. I'm not going to make you jump around. I can't speak for Paul. Paul might make you guys jump around. He's nodding his head. So the next speaker that